Well, hello and welcome to Social Chat 2.0 with Semrush. I am your host, Rebecca Verdice, and I am here alongside our panel of experts today to talk about how you can promote yourself on social media to increase sales. And we, as the panel, are spread across the United States, but we'd love to know where you are at in your corner of the world. So let us know. Drop that into chat and tell us where exactly you're located. And then also throughout, we're going to be taking all of your comments, your questions. So use that chat. Semrush is actively taking a look at those, making sure that we're getting all of those answered. And we're going to have a very, very exciting hour ahead for you as we welcome our panel of experts. So say hello to Christina Nicholson. Christina, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us where you're located and tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I'm in South Florida. I am in Wellington, which is just outside of West Palm Beach. And I am a former TV reporter and anchor. I did that for about 10 years. And then I veered off and I joined the other side, as they say, and I got into public relations. So instead of being on the news, I actually put people on the news now. And as we know, a big part of that is social media. There is so much under the media umbrella. So social media definitely plays a big part in amplifying that traditional media exposure that I help business owners earn.
Well, and I love that you practice what you preach and you bring very practical but extremely actionable tips. So I know everybody's going to get a ton out of everything you share today. And then we've got Kelly Noble Mirabella. Kelly, thanks again for joining us.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on today. A little bit about me. I am in Southern California in a little town called Santa Clarita. I'm originally from Colorado, though, so most people know me from Colorado. But I have been a social media manager for the past 12 years. I have owned my own business for the past 10. And for the past 3.5 years, I've been a messenger bot, messenger marketing geek girl, if you will. I'm obsessed. I run an 80s themed chatbot YouTube channel, and I'm also the official trainer for the brand new ManyChat e-course that's going to be coming out this summer. And ManyChat is the #1 building tool for messenger bots. So that's a little bit about me. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Yes. Thanks for being here. And then finally, last but not least, a dear friend of mine is Mitch Jackson. Mitch, thanks for taking some time out of what I know is your very busy schedule to join us.
Rebecca, it is so good to be here. Thanks for having me on today. And it's really nice to meet everyone else on the show. I'm a California trial lawyer practicing here in Orange County, California. I'm also the author, you guys, of the book, The Ultimate Guide to Social Media. I wrote this book because we view social media to expand our brand from local to global. It's changed everything with our law firm. And so I'm all in on social. I love helping other professionals build their brand, build better relationships on social media. And it's just a pleasure to be here with all of you today.
Yes. So as everybody that is watching live, or if you're watching this recording, you can see definitely a panel you're going to want to ask a lot of questions of. And just know that if we don't get to all of them, we will definitely circle back around. So let's keep this very interactive and dive right in and talk about how you can actually use social media to expand your reach, to drive awareness, but more than that, to actually sell your product or service without feeling spammy, maybe slimy or annoying, and instead be able to naturally attract an audience that's eager to buy what you have to offer. So, Christina, I want to start with you because you've, as you talked about, built a public relations business. And I think you've done it with all of that I just talked about in mind, that you can increase your visibility and your sales through the power of relationships. You can increase that awareness and do it all very naturally, very authentically. And I'd love to hear from you how exactly you really started to use social media to build that awareness, but to build those sales. And what are some of those tips that you could pass along today?
Yeah, well, I think to start off, the biggest mistake people make is they try to go in for the sale too quickly. I mean, you can use the analogy of dating where you're not going to ask somebody to marry you right away. So don't ask for the sale right away on social media. And that may be why you are there. But first things first, you need to build that know, like, and trust factor. And years ago, we had to see something, 6, 7, or 8 times before we decided to act on it. Now it's probably 60, 70, or 80, just because we see so much all day, every day, especially when we're online. So I think the key to selling on social media is to actually stop selling and just build that know, like, and trust factor. So that way you're always top of mind. And then when people are ready to work with you, they know exactly who to go to. I mean, Rebecca, let's talk about why I'm here right now. I met you, and I don't even know if you remember this, Rebecca. This was years ago, maybe 3 years ago. You were speaking at an event in Miami, and I loved the bracelets that you were wearing. And I tweeted you. You were probably 20 feet away from me. And I tweeted you that I was getting ready to listen to you speak and I loved your bracelets. And you were like, oh, where's Christina? And I was like, oh, hi, that's me. And now we've been Twitter friends for years. We've recommended different things, people, businesses, back and forth. And you asked me to come on here today to join you. And that's just an example of how having a conversation on social and just being consistent with it, building that know, like, and trust factor can lead to sales down the road. Don't try to get it out of the gate, because you're just going to annoy people if you do that.
You know what's really interesting, Rebecca and Christina, just to play off of what you just said, when we're dealing with professionals who have type A personalities and we like to go ahead and go in for the close right away, the biggest challenge I see for professionals and CEOs is to give themselves permission to take a step back, build that relationship, build that know, like, and trust, like you mentioned, and create the type of environment where when somebody has a legal challenge or a professional challenge, regardless of what you do, you're that person they think of. You're that person they walk next door and tell their neighbor about to reach out and get a question answered or a professional service taken care of. It's the relationships that I think end up leading to the long-term sales and increased end-of-year profits.
Yeah, well, and I love how all of this feeds right into, Kelly, what you're doing every single day, and how you can really nurture and grow those relationships with chatbots.
Yeah, I think, excuse me, one of the big misconceptions that have come out with messenger bots, a lot of people say they're annoying and it takes the human touch out. And it's, I mentioned, a misconception, because what I'm finding is that messenger bots help you build relationship to scale. And if you're doing them correctly, you can drive people not only within the messenger bot into conversations where you're building that rapport, you're building that relationship, and you're building community. But in my world, I also use them to put people over into my Facebook group, which is incredibly community driven and very, very active. So I think it's so important to understand that these tools are not there to replace the human. The human is always the center of it all. It is always important to be thinking about the end user and to always be thinking about how we can build that rapport. Because like you said, we want to be the person people think about down the road, and not everybody's ready to buy right now. But when they are ready, who are they going to think about? And it's going to be the person they trust. It's going to be the person they've built that rapport with, that has given them value along the way. And so messenger bots can definitely allow you to do that. And as someone who's been in social media a long time, I can attest to the fact that messenger bots are not going to be the golden ticket of everything. But with all the amazing tools that we have at our disposal in the world we are right now, if we can find the right tools that bring things together and kind of put the puzzle pieces together, all these tools together can make that experience so much better for the end user, and in the end, make the conversion so much easier for the business.
Yeah, and you talk about all of these tools, and I think one that we're using right now, video, is
Yes.
such a big part of that. And you see people from around the world. We have people here from Afghanistan. Let's see, we've got Pennsylvania, more from Florida. So it's really amazing to me when you see the power of what is available to us today as a business, as humans, to be able to connect around the world. And that's why I thought it would be such an interesting conversation to bring all three of you here today, because you have very different specializations, but you come at it from a very specific, very similar place, in that it is all about creating relationships. It's the tools, everything that we're using isn't there to replace those relationships, but really there to extend those.
Absolutely.
Rebecca, you know, it's interesting. Tools and platforms will come and go. Relationships can last a lifetime. And once we start embracing and focusing on the relationships, whether you're complementing those relationships with chatbot technology, whether you're complementing those relationships with my favorite tool, video and live video, because there's something about looking people in the digital eyeballs that just connects you. When you meet someone online and you have an online live video relationship, professionally speaking, and you see that person at a conference and they reach out to shake your hand, you bring them in for a hug, generally speaking. There's just something special about video and live video. And Rebecca, I think that's something that's brought us together over the years, what has been our interaction on live video, and then taking that and helping each other on a professional level. So something special about the tools, but there's something even more special about the relationships.
Yeah, well, and what I hear you saying too is really being very intentional with those relationships too, in that you're not just having a casual conversation on a social network and then forgetting all about it, but you are taking that next step. You're asking, how can we help or support or promote one another, and going the extra mile.
So true, so true.
Yeah, so I'd love to hear from every one of you, because you are different specializations, also using different mediums to connect with your audience. Have you found that there is any one social network, when you're trying to get more promotion, more sales for your business, has there been one network that has better supported you in achieving that goal? Mitch, maybe you can kick us off.
Sure. Just to kind of amplify a little bit about video and live video, without a question, it's been live video back in the day with a platform called Spreecast, which rolled out around 2011, 2012. I was one of the early users on Spreecast as a professional, and it's just helped me connect with people from all over the world. What I've noticed about social media, about technology, about digital, especially video and live video, is it's allowed us to take that one-on-one relationship where someone used to sit across my desk and answer that same question on a 1-to-1,000 24/7, because people are digesting our content, you know, today, right now, and on the other side of the world, 48 hours from now. And when I talk to Professor Nicholas Muir at Chapman University, he keeps reminding me that this is a global branding effort that all of us are engaged in, and we need to remember that. So social and live video really does allow you to connect on a human to human level. And I think that's what's worked really well for us. I'm curious to hear what everyone else has to say.
Kelly, how about you?
So it's interesting because I've been doing all these things for so long. I think that there's more than one important one. I completely agree that video is incredibly important. And in my own strategy, YouTube has been the standout for me over the past 2 years. But that being said, every business in every personal brand is going to need to make that decision. My advice, though, is to pick something pick the thing, right? For me, it was actually, believe it or not, as much as I do messenger bots is what I teach and represent, but I do it on YouTube. So I picked the one thing, and I have a lot of energy, and I put it all towards that thing. And I've been doing this for 12 years, and I've never had the branding success I have had in the past year and a half, because I have focused so much on one platform and given all my energy to that platform instead of kind of spreading myself thin. And that's not to say I don't use other platforms, but the focus is this one thing. So if you focus and have a consistent strategy and you're like basically obsessed with being the best at YouTube or the best at Facebook Live or the best at whatever, you know, whatever it is that you can get your message out there, but whatever that vehicle is, because you're focused, you will achieve higher quality and better results. Rather than let me just like spread it all over the place and spread myself thin. So I don't know if you guys know Andrew and Pete. They're these amazing guys out of the UK. They are my business coaches, and they were the ones who taught me this technique. And I'm telling you what, it's one of the hardest things in the world for someone like me who's like always like squirrel, you know, what's the hot new thing, to really focus in and be laser focused with my energy on a strategy that basically includes video on YouTube, a Facebook group, and chatbots. And that's really it. And now that I've been doing it for a year and a half and I've started to see that I'm in a process and things are working out great, yes, now I do other things, but it's more of like, I'm just going to share. I'm not going to like, you know, try to be over here and try to be over here. So I think having a focus and going all in on being the best you can be and always honing that skill and being consistent is, to me, the most important platform you can choose.
Yeah, and I think that is if people take one thing away today, it is exactly that, because it's so counter to what we've been told so often and for so many years of you've got to be everything to everybody, you have to be on every single channel. And so, Mitch, I hear you saying you double down on video. Kelly, you're talking about the same exact thing. Go deep, don't go wide, don't spread yourself out. And you will see much greater success because you commit to really spending quality time with that group of people. So how about you, Christina? Have you found a similar situation, or have you maybe dipped your toe in a lot of different social networks?
Well, I think in answering this question, I'm also going to kind of help Kristen with her question that she's asking in the chat. And I think first you need to know where your people are and what they're doing where they are. So, for example, I have a public relations agency. My people for that are on LinkedIn. That's where I'm going to find my C-suite executives, on LinkedIn. But I also mentor small business owners who can't afford a PR agency. Those people are finding me on Instagram. And what I post on Instagram is very different than what I post on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, it's more straight business. It's more straight ROI. On Instagram, it's more, I'm a working mom, and this is how I built my business with kids at home. So even though the messaging, the end message is the same, the way I'm delivering it is different. Twitter is also great for my business, but Twitter's great when it comes to connecting with people, connecting with journalists, and building relationships, just because Twitter's that platform where after 20 minutes, we have all forgotten what you tweeted about because we've seen 100 tweets since then. So I really just think it depends on where your people are and what you have to show too. Like Kristen was saying in the chat, that she has a client that is very visual. Well, obviously Instagram's going to be great for that. I can post on LinkedIn every day because I don't need a pretty visual. On Instagram, I'm not posting every day because I don't have tons and tons of pretty visuals. Maybe I'm posting once or twice a week. So for me, it's very dependent on who is on the platform, and that determines what I am posting and how I am sharing my expertise with the people who are there to receive it.
I love that. Can I add something to that, Rebecca, real quick?
Go for it.
So what Christina just mentioned and what Kelly just mentioned, I absolutely love that. And if your audience is on LinkedIn, then think about focusing on LinkedIn, using written content, using LinkedIn video and LinkedIn live video. But there's a caveat to all of this. And I look at social media as putting out different welcome mats to my law firm and to my life. And I share a lot of my personal hobbies and passions and interest on social media, which humanizes me. And so while you're doing all of this, take a step back and ask yourself, am I not doing video because I just don't like how I look and sound on video? Or in other words, are you limiting yourself as to why you're not using a particular platform? Or can you give yourself permission to expand a little bit and put yourself out there on a podcast, on a video, writing written blog content? In other words, the more good it comes down to good content. It's not necessarily the platform, it's the quality and the entertainment level and the engagement level of the content that you're putting out there. And if you put out good content and then repurpose that content, take clips and share it on other platforms, take pieces of your blog post and tweet them out with links back to your post or your video on YouTube, that's the way you can expand your sphere of influence. You can save yourself time, and you're also being consistent. That's something that Kelly mentioned, is if you're consistent in everything that we're talking about, I think that's where I see a lot of people drop the ball. They create great content, but they're not consistent.
I agree with the consistency. I think that is so a key thing. And I think a lot of people, number one, either get discouraged because these things are not, you don't become an overnight success. You really have to continue to hone that and be like very consistent so that people show up because you show up. So it's easy to get discouraged, especially if you're like, I do YouTube videos, and YouTube is a tricky little site. It's very easy to get discouraged, and even Facebook Live to get that momentum going. So discouragement is a tough one. And then also that squirrel syndrome of I get distracted by the next shiny thing. But if you can break past that and continue to be consistent and continue to just show up, you will see the results. That hands down, everyone I've ever seen who's been able to break past the whatever I was saying about, feeling discouraged or a distraction. If you could break past that, you're going to see success. Just keep showing up and keep learning to improve and show up for your audience.
And the best way for me to be consistent, because all of this is time consuming. I mean, anything social media, it's crazy time consuming. We all have other things that we need to be doing. For me, batching is like the biggest savior when it comes to being consistent.
Absolutely.
For example, this morning, I just wrote 4 scripts for 4 YouTube videos. And when I go to record them, I will sit down and I will record 4 YouTube videos at one time. I don't even change my shirt. Like, I don't even care. I'm not a fashion blogger, so I wear the same shirt for 4 videos week after week. And you get so much done faster when you batch things and you just do it all at once. And it's so easy to be consistent. So get it in the calendar. Like, that is your to-do list. If it's in the calendar, it's getting done, and batch it. And then you really will have no excuses.
100% agree with that.
One more thing along those lines, creating content quickly and easily that people are going to be interested in is, listen, most of us, what you're doing, believe it or not, we do it every day and we're used to it, but to other people, it's interesting. And when I'm walking into the courthouse, I'll pull out my phone. I'll just pull out my phone like this and I'll say, I'm walking into a pretrial hearing. These are the issues we're going to be talking about. The other side's arguing this. I'm going to win because I'm arguing this. I show them a picture of the courthouse. We're not allowed to take pictures inside. But what I find is real-time video or real-time live video, and I engage with my audience. And that's the other thing we really want to focus on, is engage with your audience when you're connecting with them on Periscope or YouTube Live or Facebook Live. I find my audience really gets a kick of behind the scenes, right? Behind the scenes, what they normally don't see. It doesn't take me any time to create this stuff. I'm doing it on the fly, and my audience is eating it up. And I think that's something we can all do to save time.
What about for those that would love to be doing that, Mitch, and they just don't necessarily think about it? Are you planning ahead? You say you're doing it on the fly, but is it just always something happening within your brain that next video moment is about to happen? How can people be more intentional about that?
It's a mindset, right? It's a mindset. And so once you start looking for opportunities to share and to create content, for some reason, Rebecca, you become more aware of what's happening out there. One of the reasons that I've had the pleasure of joining David Meerman Scott on stage at Tony Robbins is because of our firm's efforts with respect to newsjacking. And that's a big deal that David talks about, real-time engagement. David saw us newsjacking from the beach. I'm down doing a run, a breaking news story comes out that I can interject my own personal opinion on in a positive and engaging and helpful way. And I'll pull out my phone and I'll just immediately newsjack that breaking news story. When I come back to the office, I'll have, 5 to 10 messages from reporters that want to follow up on what they just watched on Twitter. That's on the fly. I'm playing it loosey and goosey, right? I just want to take advantage of a breaking news story. On the other side of the coin, half the time I'm thinking to myself, okay, when I get down to the courthouse, I specifically want to talk about, for example, the homeless problem that we have down at the courthouse, and how can we help them? How are lawyers and judges helping this homeless situation? Because I want to show the public that we're good people and we're trying to make a difference. We're just not down there representing our clients. So I'll actually plan ahead and think, what are the 3 talking points I want to discuss in this 60-second video? And so there's a mindset and some intent that does go behind it. I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, it reminds me of the reticular activator, you know, the whole idea that you buy a blue car, you start seeing blue cars everywhere you go.
That's what it is.
Yeah, once you see those opportunities everywhere, it's impossible to get away from them. Would you agree, Kelly?
Yeah, actually, I was going to say, before I got into chatbots, I was actually one of the first people to get into live video, and I had a course on it, and I totally agree. But something that we taught in that course, and I still teach some of my consulting clients, is it's a habit. So just like working out, it becomes, you become more aware of possibilities when you create a habit. So if you are brand new to being live or creating that kind of habit, one of my suggestions is to start with stories, like Instagram stories, Snapchat stories, Facebook stories, wherever your platform is, and make it, don't just like jump on whenever you feel the whim, but have the habit. Okay, today I'm going to create 3 stories. And do it every day. And because you do it every day, it becomes a habit. And then when you're like Mitch and you're walking into work and you see the opportunity, because it's a habit, you recognize that there is an opportunity. It becomes a lot easier for you to jump on. So it does take practice to, you know, become aware of those things, I think.
Well, you both said 2 really important things in there that I want to make sure everybody heard, which is building that muscle. So building that habit and seeing that opportunity everywhere you go. And really being intentional with that too, and having those, you know, maybe 3 questions or 3 bullet points. So there is some preparation to that as well, where you're not just hopping on. And then you also said something really important, which is you're training your audience when to show up, when you're going to be there, so that it's not just sporadic and random and when you feel like it, or, you know, it happens without you even having to think about it, because you've put that process into place.
I think with social media, what's really important is if you pre-promote, have your show, have your post, have your podcast, and then post-promote, that's a very effective way of getting the most bang for your buck with respect to the time and effort that you put in. Another thing, Rebecca, is shine a light on other people. If you're having a hard time coming up with content, there's a lot of amazing people out there doing a lot of amazing things. Community service, individuals, companies. Spend some time talking about them and sharing their content and sharing their blogs and actually going down to their place of business and doing a video interviewing somebody. I mean, shining a light on other people is a really fun way to help others and at the same time show the human side of who you are and build your brand. So people might want to try that also. I can see Kelly going, yes, she agrees.
I think we all agree 100%. And I want to circle back around to some of the comments we've got, because they directly relate to what we're talking about here. Vish was talking about, you know, relationships and building momentum and building those habits. And then also all of this content we're creating. And he's wondering, from a relationship standpoint, can you put money behind that content? Maybe with Facebook, with Instagram, with Twitter ads, and really see a benefit? Or do you have to create a completely different type of content, say promotional content specifically, to get the best bang for your buck? Kelly, you're shaking your head.
Yeah. So one of my very good friends is Amanda Robinson, and she is an expert in Facebook ads. Some might call her the queen of Facebook ads. And she taught me something that I found really valuable that really touches on what this is all about, is that especially now when it comes to Facebook ads, because it's so much more competitive now than ever. When you first run an ad to an audience, that's a cold audience. A cold audience is not going to convert for you. So you have to still build an audience. You still have to build that relationship. So the idea is to take this cold audience and show them in your ad something that builds that trust that we're talking about, that is beneficial to them, that is value driven, and not directing them straight over to buy, whatever. Obviously, it depends on the price point of your product. If you're just selling t-shirts or something or mugs, then that's a little easier, and you have a smaller window. But what she says is to start with the cold audience and then build your audience smaller and smaller. So you're basically funneling them down, AKA you're building that know, like, trust with them. You're building that relationship with them. So by the time you get them down to the conversion, ads or organic, that is going to be easier to convert because of the relationship you've built. So it doesn't matter if it's paid or organic, the relationship trumps everything.
Christina, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, well, when it comes to ads, I'm like the anti-ad girl, which is very rare. And I think that's just because I work with earned media. I tell you, yes, ideally it'd be great to have your own media, to earn media and have advertising. But earned media just means so much more. And I think what the best ad, if you are going to advertise, a best ad would be promoting earned media. Not last month, but the month before in May, I helped Amy Porterfield get a segment on headline news. That is headline news saying, look, here's Amy Porterfield. She knows what she's talking about. That's very different than Amy Porterfield saying, look, here I am. I know what I'm talking about. So I think if you are going to spend money on advertising, it should be, look, all these other people who you already know, like, and trust, me. And then you're automatically known, liked, and trusted. It's like a referral. It's like a third-party endorsement. So I think if you are going to advertise, or you are going to even just put something out organically on your own platform, remember, people are going to say, oh, well, of course you're going to say that. You're just promoting yourself. You have to kind of think from a consumer's point of view, because think of how you consume content. We ignore ads. A lot of us ignore ads just because we know somebody is just trying to sell us. So you need to work with that ad, switch it, change it, rearrange it, so it looks like it is benefiting the person you are targeting, and it is not you just pumping your own tires.
Rebecca, my favorite.
That's great.
My favorite type of advertising, and I don't like advertising or marketing. I'm all about building relationships, and I'm a trial lawyer. I don't provide these services. But user-generated content, okay, UGC, if you can get your clients and customers to take videos and share pictures about your products or services and say great things about you, along the line of what Christina just mentioned, if you get other people talking about you and validifying and verifying who you are and what you do and how great you do it, that's the most powerful, I think, content in the world. When you combine user-generated content with video and live video, sky's the limit. When it comes to ads, and I'm kind of like Christina on this, I don't spend hardly any money on ads. I was around before the internet, you guys, and we used to spend a lot of money marketing our law firm, okay? This is a whole new world today. You guys have it made. You don't have to spend money to get your brand noticed and to sell product and services. If you do, take a step back and make sure your advertisement is a good communication. It's a good content ad. A lot of people just throw money at Facebook and Twitter, and they wonder why all they hear are digital crickets. You want to start off with quality content that's engaging, entertaining, helpful. It's all about adding a benefit to the third-party consumer. And then you look at, how can I promote this on the various social media platforms? Too many people promote first and then wonder why nothing happened. So work on your communication skills. I think it's really important as a business owner to learn how to effectively and persuasively communicate on the digital platforms, because you only have a couple of seconds to grab somebody's attention. And if you're not communicating clearly in a headline or in the first 30 seconds of your video or live video, you're probably going to have somebody tap and swipe and go someplace else. So I would suggest that people learn how to communicate. It's not something we're born with. It's something that we can all improve upon every single day. If I can do it, you guys, and I've never been accused of being the brightest bulb in the lamp, but if I can improve my communication skills, then so can you. True story.
Yeah, first of all, I would argue that point, but yes, absolutely. It is not something we are just born and do automatically. It's something we have to improve upon every single day. And like anything else we do, the more we do it, the more we have those conversations, the more we do the outreach or the cold outreach like you were talking about, Kelly, the more comfortable we get with that. And we had a kind of a follow-up question to what we were talking about earlier with spreading yourself out too thin. And Thermal Corporation says they are spending a lot of time on LinkedIn. They know that that's where their audience is. They are sharing a lot of blog posts and wondering, should they just simply stay over there on LinkedIn, or is it a good idea to spread themselves out as far as sharing their blog posts, maybe over to Twitter or to Instagram? I know we were all fairly strong on go where your audience is, know where your audience is spending your time, but maybe talk to other pillars that could be Twitter or Instagram that are directly supporting our efforts. Christina?
Well, I think if LinkedIn could be the right place, maybe they're just using it incorrectly. So you mentioned that they are posting blog posts. To me, and I see this all the time in different Facebook groups, people are like, I'm posting all of this stuff and nothing's happening. You cannot treat social media like a billboard. You don't post and ghost. The secret to LinkedIn, and LinkedIn has a great search engine within it, where you can search people based on their location, based on their job title. I even make connections with people here in South Florida who graduated from where I did at Ohio State, just to build relationships. So I think maybe use that search tool within LinkedIn to connect with not only your ideal customer or client, but people who do something a little different than you, but they have the same customer or client, and then you could build a referral relationship with them. Because the secret isn't just posting stuff and treating it like a billboard. That, yes, it's important. That's your plan B, but your plan A should be like what we were talking about earlier, is being helpful with people in real time. And if you are not making the right connections with the right people, everything you're posting doesn't matter because they're not seeing any of that stuff. So I would suggest using that search tool on LinkedIn. You can connect with multiple people a day. You can search them down to, their industry, if not their job title, where they work. It's really robust in there. So I would suggest just poking around LinkedIn, try using it in a different way, being more proactive instead of hoping somebody reacts to you, and see how that goes.
There's a follow-up question from Kristen, who is kind of hearing that we're not touching on or talking as much about Facebook, and maybe not just us, but maybe just in general, not hearing as much about Facebook. I know we just talked about Facebook ads, but she's asking if anyone here on the panel is actively using Facebook, and specifically Facebook groups is what she was asking about in terms of building those relationships and building those connections. Kelly, you're shaking your head.
Oh, yeah. Yes, if I wasn't a messenger, if I wasn't giving all my energy to messenger bot trainings, I would train on Facebook groups because they are so flippin' powerful. And I think the reason you don't hear people like in this conversation, we're not just like Facebook is because Facebook is a behemoth. You've got groups, you've got pages, you've got messenger bots are based on Facebook. You've got WhatsApp, you've got, there's so many things. There's ads and various types of ads. And then there's the video and the live video. So there's just so many things and you don't have to do them all. It's just like, you don't have to be on every social network, where Facebook is so big now, you don't have to do them all. But in terms of Facebook groups, I actually have a very strong Facebook group strategy. I teach chatbots. So just so you see like the linear line here, I teach messenger bots. That is my expertise that I focus on. The platform I have chosen that best represents my content is YouTube, but I drive my community into my Facebook group where we have extended trainings, live Q&As, and I can build a deeper relationship. So we go from content to where I post my content to the depth of my community. And certainly you don't have to take them in that same direction. I could have kept them on YouTube, but my Facebook group, for those of you who are wondering, do Facebook groups work? It is so immensely powerful to have a Facebook group. I have a Facebook group of at the time, about 1,200 people. And I was able to make like almost $10,000 in sales on my Baby Got Bot Facebook, my chatbot course without advertising at all, because of the relationships that I built in that group. And so if you're looking for ways to deepen relationships, and by the way, Facebook groups are not for you to like just use as a page. They're completely different. As my friend Bella Vasta says, your Facebook page is your front yard. Your Facebook group is your backyard. That's where all the fun happens. That's where you're having the barbecues and drinking the brewskis with your friends. You know, the Facebook page is where the pretty Christmas lights go on, but the party's in the back. And that's where the fun happens. That's where the communication happens. The relationships are built. The memories are built. So that's how you want to think about your Facebook groups, but they are so powerful. And so I definitely think that if you can integrate it, it's not for everyone, but if you can integrate it into your strategy, it takes a lot of time, but it's well worth the effort.
You know, it's interesting, Kelly, you mentioned Bella. Bella is scheduled to be in our mastermind as a guest.
She was supposed to yesterday, but you had tech issues. Right?
You know, I wasn't going to bring that out, but she's so excited. She's already rescheduled.
She's my best friend, so I know everything.
That's the other thing about social, you guys. Got to be strategically transparent. So we're excited to bring her in, but the reason I wanted to bring her in was the power of Facebook and Facebook groups, okay? Here's the thing, you guys. Rebecca, when you see me running and flying the drone, I'm down at Strands. Strands is some of the most expensive coastal real estate in Southern California. And I wouldn't want to try to buy there today, but if I had a chance to buy property at Strands 20 years ago for pennies on the dollar, we'd all be all over that. It'd be the best investment we ever made. Fast forward to today with social media and with digital, our investment opportunity of our time, of building out our brands, it's never been as inexpensive as it's going to be, and the upside potential is huge. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, for some young millennials like my kids who are older teenagers and young adults, Snap, they're still on Snap, you guys, and all the other platforms. I honestly think it's smart to build out a brand on all of these platforms if you can. And there are going to be people in LinkedIn that aren't over on Instagram stories. There's going to be people on Facebook in Facebook groups that aren't going to be over on LinkedIn. And so what I like to do is try to participate and be involved on all of those platforms, because I think it's inexpensive real estate that I want to get in now. I want to buy low so that I can sell high with my brand 5 or 10 years from now. One other thing, in Facebook groups, for me, the key is engagement. Okay, being active in a group is one thing. Responding, sharing useful content in the comments, actually working and helping and providing value within the groups that you set up or that you're a part of, I think it's critically important. It does take time, it does take effort, but whether it's Facebook or any of the other top platforms, I think it's really important that you slowly build out a presence on each of the major platforms.
So we've talked about relationships, we've talked about some of the tools, the opportunities that are available to us as businesses as we are growing that engagement, as we are building that sales funnel, as we are creating those moments where we can have that connection, that deeper, more meaningful connection. And now Stephanie is asking, okay, so we're ramping things up, we're getting things going, we're moving our audience possibly from Instagram or Facebook into our sales funnel. How do we best track sales? Anybody want to take that one?
I can start with that one. I think the question is, how did you hear about me after they become a client, is a great one. And that works twofold. It's a great question because then you get a response. Oh, I saw this YouTube video, or I was at the Semrush webinar. That's great. I can track exactly where you came from and I know to double down on that. But when you are in an industry like I am, where you want to be everywhere all the time in front of a bunch of different people, sometimes people really don't know because they're like, oh, well, I mean, I know I feel like I see you everywhere, but I can't pinpoint exactly where. And then that's good too, because then you're everywhere all the time. So I think it's hard. You know, people put marketing and sales together and it drives me nuts because marketing happens first and then it leads to sales. Like it's my job to lead the horse to water. And if you're in sales, it's your job to make the horse drink the water. So I think we kind of have to separate these two things. So if we're going to talk about sales, then that's a conversation with the person after they closed the deal. Like, how did this person enter my email list? You can track that. You can go back and track that. If they remember where they heard of you, you can track that. But I'm thinking of like even just things that I buy, looking around my home. How did I hear about this? And it's hard sometimes for us to remember because, again, we need to see things so many times before we decide to make a decision on it. So I think tracking can be tough, but we do have things like analytics. I mean, I use Semrush for my SEO research, and they're great with analytics. So look at your analytics to try to answer those questions as well, whether it's Google Analytics, your Instagram Analytics, what's going on in your email list. But remember, marketing is step one, and then sales is step two. And when you try to combine them, things can get a little messy and hard to track.
I think that what you said about I see you everywhere is one of the best compliments that you can get. When I started in social media, this was, 12 years ago, I was with a small business, builder, and the owner said, everyone keeps saying that we see you everywhere. I'm like, that's exactly what you want. But I do think with this particular question, it comes down to what is it that you're selling? Because if you are something that you need to be known everywhere, if your goal is top of mind, I want to be remembered beyond my competition, then yes, that's what you want to hear. But if you're selling something and you can't necessarily say, where did you hear from us? Definitely look at your analytics. But something that I do is I create ref URLs that track from various campaigns that I'm running. So if I'm selling my course, for instance, then I might have a separate link or a tracking code, if you will, attached to that ref URL that goes to from my Facebook group into my course. I might have one that goes from my Messenger bot campaign into my course, that goes from Facebook into my course, and I can directly track how exactly I got those conversions. And then if you're running ads, for instance, you should have a pixel installed on your pages. If you don't have tracking code installed on your websites and on your landing pages, do not spend money on Facebook advertising. You are wasting your money, because that is exactly what it's there to do. It's there to tell you, did these people convert because of this? It's there to help you track. It's there to help you bring people further down into the funnel. But there are absolutely tools that you can use to figure out where people are going. And a lot of times, if you're selling a product on, say, like, even if you're selling something on Shopify, Shopify's analytics are going to tell you where the majority of people are coming from. So definitely look at those. I agree that you want to look at those analytical tools that you have to your disposal, and make sure you set them up before you run your campaigns, because they don't work after.
Yeah, well, and what you're talking about is UTMs, so that you can track every single campaign. And the cool part about Semrush is that you can build those right within the social media poster. So if you are creating a campaign like you're talking about, Kelly, let's say you've got a very specific campaign, you can create a UTM that allows you to track exactly where that traffic is coming from, so that you can see what was the medium, what was that source, and what is truly driving those sales. It's going to allow you to make far more informed decisions going forward.
Absolutely.
Too. And this really speaks to being everywhere, because you're going to see pretty quickly that maybe what your gut told you, what you thought was going to work really well, did not. It unfortunately was maybe taking a lot of time and not driving real results. So it's such a powerful way for you to really get to the bottom of what's working, what's not, and where should I be spending my time.
Rebecca, just the old school Mitch Jackson. For those of you in the service industry, we ask, I think, two really important questions with new clients. When somebody reaches out to us by a phone call, a DM on Twitter, an email, we always ask, how did you hear about us? And when they say, well, I saw you on the internet, everyone is trained to drill deeper. Well, where on the internet? What platform? What was it that got you to reach out to us? So that first question really does give us insight as to where people are coming from a service industry standpoint. The second most important question we ask our clients at the end of an initial client consultation We've built trust, we've built rapport. They want us to move forward and represent them. The last question we ask is we look them in the eye and we say, how would you like us to communicate with you? In other words, would you like us to use Facebook Messenger? Would you like me to DM you on Twitter? Text is the big thing. Everybody wants to communicate using text, which is fine. So subject to state bar rules and regulations and what the transaction's all about, we usually go out of our way to communicate with our clients the way they want us to communicate with them, not how we want to communicate with them. They love that. They tell their family and friends about that. And then it rolls over to social and the relationship just continues. So sometimes it's just a matter of asking open-ended questions to get the answers you're looking for.
So we have a couple more questions here. I want to make sure we get to, we've got one that I'm not quite sure what they were referencing. Nettie had asked, does utilizing the link to your website all the time hurt you? Kelly?
They were talking about LinkedIn. I saw that in the chat when they were talking about that. I think that they were talking about sharing links on, in this case, it was LinkedIn, but you could have that argument with any social network. I know like Facebook, there's always that argument, always. And I would say that you need to, number one, test it for yourself, because every brand is going to find something different. For instance, people will fight me on this, but I share my YouTube link on my Facebook page. And I have split tested this, because everyone will argue, well, Facebook doesn't like YouTube links, so you should do an image or a little video clip and then have a link in the comments. I have split tested this. And while everyone is correct that reach is higher for those, not by much, by the way, but the click-through rates are insanely higher for direct links to YouTube. So people are actually going and taking the action that I want them to do. And not only that, my view time on Facebook videos, because people argue, well, why don't you just upload it to Facebook? My view time is somewhere around 30 seconds. My view time on YouTube averages over 4 minutes. So I'm telling you right now, you got to test it for yourself. And you also need to make sure that you are doing what is best for your business and don't just blindly follow what everyone's saying. But if you are going to share a link, please use context. Don't just share the link and be like, here's my blog. Like, what's in it for me as the viewer? How is this going to help me? Give me a summary. Give me some bullet points. Make it flashy. Make it worth my while.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and Kelly, you're getting questions about the name of your Facebook group.
Oh yeah, I mentioned it earlier. It's Baby Got Bot. It's the same as my YouTube channel. Yeah, I do 80s themed messenger training, so you can't miss it. If you go on Facebook, you look up Baby Got Bot, you'll find my group. It's there.
Yeah, fantastic. So, okay, a couple of other questions just to kind of circle us back around into the content piece that we've been talking about, and creating a variety of different types of content. And Kelly, you're talking about just really understanding your audience, knowing what they're looking for. Having a healthy mix of content is a question I get asked a lot. And what does that actually look like? Can I just simply create videos all the time? Or do I need to share a mix of blog posts and videos? Is there a type that you have found that converts at a higher rate, that turns those conversations into actual sales?
I'm going to go back to how I started this whole talk, and that is focus on one thing until it's so dang good, until you are so good at it that you can do the best at something else. I decided to give up. I gave up 2 podcasts, a very consistent blog post, so that I could put out consistent YouTube videos, and that alone made all the difference. And a lot of people will disagree with me. It's not maybe the path for everyone, but this is what Andrew and Pete taught me. And I'm telling you, if you can focus on one medium, if you're like Mitch and you're like, I'm going to kill it at Facebook Live, guess what? He's going to kill it at Facebook Live, because he's not off. Like, you will just get stressed out. You will feel exhausted if you're trying to keep up with everything. If you feel like you need to do a blog and you also do video, get a virtual assistant, get a writer, and hire someone to take your videos and repurpose them. But don't bog yourself down thinking you have to do everything, because there are people who the only thing they do is write 5,000 word blogs, and they are killing it. Like all their other social sucks, but they are killing it because their blogs are so amazing that you want to be the destination. That's what my girl Bella Vasta says. And it goes for everything in life. Be the destination. Go out and be worthy of going out of your way. I want people to go out of their way to come to my YouTube channel. Not because I have blogs. I get that the argument is, well, everyone takes in something different. I'm not trying to please everyone. If you prefer to read, I prefer not to write. So maybe I'm not the right person for you. And again, it's not going to work for every business, but if you can focus on what you are very good at or get better at, then I believe, and it's proven in my own business and in a lot of the clients of Andrew and Pete, that you will succeed at a higher rate than if you try to oversaturate yourself and then burn yourself out, to be honest. But that's my personal opinion. So there you go.
So I'd like
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say along those same lines, and I'd love to hear Christina's feedback on this with bringing people to major production studios, for example. And I'm a firm believer you should focus on what you enjoy doing, right? In other words, share your passions, your interests, your hobbies, your why. What's your why in life, and how does that why? How does that correspond to what you do for a living? Can you combine the two? Because if you do what you enjoy doing, especially when you're creating content, it doesn't feel as much as work. And so I like telling other professionals, focus on your why, bring it onto the digital platforms, tactfully and creatively incorporate that why with what you do for a living, show your human side, and it doesn't feel like fun. I mean, it doesn't feel like work, it feels like fun, right? And so, Christina, as far as you bringing people, connecting people, company and business owners with production companies and agencies and things like that, is that something you talk to them about, or is that just a side issue that's just not that important?
Well, I think today people just want to see more realness and more rawness. Like, even if we're going to talk about video, which we've talked about a lot today, people don't want you in a studio with the lights on. They want you like holding your phone up like this, taking a chill video. I mean, I know, Kelly, you talk about split testing. I know many people who have split tested a professional video versus a video where they're just like off the cuff, and the off the cuff video always does better because that's how we just want to see people. Like, we want to see your realness and your rawness. And I think when it comes to creating content and sharing content in the variety, like you were talking about, Rebecca, remember, you don't need to just share your content over and over again. Repurposing is great. The video you can get transcribed easily, turn that into a blog post, cut the video down, turn it into a tease, make people click over here. Like, there's so many different ways to repurpose content, but almost half, if not more than half of what I share is other people's content. Rebecca, I'm retweeting you all day, every day, because you share amazing things on Twitter. Like,
Me too.
Share other people's content if it is relevant to them, the people who are following you. I mean, I know when I am putting things, I schedule content in addition to posting live. Again, live is plan A. The scheduler is plan B. And when I schedule content, I pull from my own content. I pull random articles that are relevant to my audience. I pull like motivational memes for Monday motivation. Tuesday, it's Testimonial Tuesday. So don't just think about promoting your own content, but share content that your audience would benefit from as well. And then that'll take some of the stress off of you that you don't have to produce as much. Because honestly, when it comes to content production, it should be quality over quantity, because they're going to ignore all of your quantity, if it's not good. So you want that quality, like get some good quality pieces and then repurpose them in a variety of ways. And let me tell you, people will not remember seeing the same thing twice in a week because they've seen thousands of things all week. So even if they're seeing something that looks similar to what you posted 5 days ago, they don't remember.
Well, and to that point, you talked about how many times we have to see something over and over and over again before we realize who you are, how you help, how we can take that next step with you. So there is repetition, and we shouldn't be afraid to continue to put that content out there over and over and over again. So with that said, believe it or not, it's been an hour and we have to wrap this up. And the three of you, I said this was going to be a stellar conversation. you absolutely did not disappoint. Thank you so much to each of you for taking your time out. I would love for the SEMrush community to be able to connect with all of you. Mitch, why don't you tell us where we can find you and how we can connect with you on social?
Well, Rebecca, thanks for having me on. This was fantastic, and it's great meeting you guys. You can connect with me all over social media at Mitch Jackson, or just go to my social media non-legal blog, social and live video, over at streaming, like live streaming, streaming.lawyer. I'll see you guys there.
Awesome. Kelly?
You guys can find me everywhere at Stellar247. That's STELLAR 247, and that includes the .com.
Woo-hoo. And Christina.
Hi. So I'm in all of the places all of the time, but you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Christina all day. And I'm also on LinkedIn. Just search my name, Christina Nicholson. I also have a podcast. It is Become a Media Maven. And I'm here on YouTube, and you can find that in the chat.
You just click on our names to get to our YouTube channel.
There you go.
There, excellent. All right, well, thank you again. Thank you to everybody that joined us here live, or if you're watching the replay, make sure to reach out to Christina, Kelly, and Mitch. I know they'd be happy to answer any questions that, if unfortunately we weren't able to get to today, certainly just reach out to where they just told you, and we kind of talked about throughout this hour where you can find them. And then thank you again for joining us here with SEMrush. Check out semrush.com. We talked about that UTM builder, but there is so much more. I think we're all in there every single day using that tool. It is a fantastic way for you to really understand how you're driving sales with social media and be able to track, just like we talked about. So until next time, I'm Rebecca Radice, and we will see you back here next month for Social 2.0 with SEMrush. Bye-bye.